Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening sky.
Let it
resound.
Let it resound.
Loud as the rolling sea.
I like this part right here. Come on.
Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on.
Let us march on.
Till victory is won.
Now we add a little something to it. Just to encourage you. We're going to take you to church later. Let's go.
We'll keep marching right until the victory is won.
To all my brothers out there.
Hold your head up, brother, till the victory is won.
To all my sisters in the struggle.
Keep believing, sister, till the victory is won.
Till that day.
Till that day comes.
Hey.
Let us march on.
To victory.
Till victory is won. Is won.
We are the Halusa nation. Our DNA is of earth and sky.
Bismillah. Hey, showing living by the G code. Don't ask them, what do he know? What I forgot is better than whatever they remember. Never mind, I'm off it, it's quiet form. Time to put the temper tantrums to the quiet corner. Hush, that's enough, said the ruler. No suckers allowed to break bread or asunder. The daylight, lightning, and the thunder. Sun, moon, and stars, and the hunger. Abundance in bundles, blessings and troubles. Towers and tunnels, views and valleys, waves and peaks. Streets you from, son, planet Earth. And ain't scared of no Mars attack. What type of bars is that? Stay off my chat. I'm out they corny riot garments. Top 5 dial on and on them. Superfly, slicker, top pro. Equal diving on them. You why you lying, homie? You won't play with my emotions, smoky. Big chief, heart rate, big beat, B-E-Y, I seen straight jacket, come clean, big said it was a dream, now it's a living thing, with you and living kings, I mean it, I mean it, Yasin in the R-E-D, I mean it, original nation, with one solid, I mean it, straight jacket, come clean, Yasin and the R-E-D, original nation, with one solid, we're true and living, you know we're true and living.
Confronted by the Alai nation, alien nation, the subjects and the citizens see the material religions through trauma and numb. Nothing is related. All the things of the earth and in the sky have energy to be exploited. Even themselves, mining their spirits into souls sold. Into nothing is sacred, not even their self. The Alai nation, alien nation.
emergency on planet Earth. The currency is murder, you a man of worth. They say the day is coming, drumming that you can't reverse. Watch the banner burn before the cannon bursts. Don't chase an illusion, the nation hallucina. Hallelujah, taste of the future, the people that shower, the of the coward that tracing the suture. Lonely martyrs, magic carpets, dirty blankets, Coca-Cola, soul controller, holy waters. Middle East mode, sand glorious, cheat code in Babylonian, the Orient. My superhero got the people power. Yasin and Yasin, you should heed the hour.
With you and living kings, I mean it, I mean. I mean it, I mean. Yasin and Yasin in the R.E.B. I mean it, I mean. Original nation with one solid, I mean. I mean it, I mean. Straight jacket, come clean, Yasin and Yasin in the R.E.B. Original nation with one solid, with true and live it.
Hey Dorinda, some of our brothers and sisters, they feel like God has left them. Bring them back. That jam. Yeah, it ain't that bad. Dorinda, help me.
You can't believe this hurt so deep, like God is asleep and forgot about you. You told yourself that if God was gonna help your life and your health, He would have done it already. God is Monday, but you don't be misled. Sugar be
good place to take a nap? All right, well, I'm going. All right. Are we live? Am I live right now? I'm talking to the interwebs? All right. No one actually ever called it that. Is Nathan live? It's just me?
I'm just in the
Oh, there you
void.
are.
Oh, hey. Hi there.
So you're singing in Spanish here in a minute.
Oh, boy.
How do you feel about that?
Great.
Yeah? It sounds great. I mean, in the practice, it
I
sounds
mean, it'd be better if I remembered at least a fifth of the Spanish that I once knew.
I want someone to explain to me why no one who took Spanish in high school actually learned Spanish.
So to be fair, I can't speak to that because I did actually learn Spanish.
Oh, but you
I
forgot
just
it.
lost it, yeah.
Okay.
I moved to a place called, perhaps you've heard of it, Ohio.
I love Ohio, but there's not a lot of Spanish speaking that happens there.
It is...
You were in Cleveland, right?
I feel like since this is on the internet, I probably shouldn't be as terrible with my characterization as I would normally be. But basically, it lacks a bit of, cultural vibrancy, I guess you could say. And so that kind of, I feel like I came from California to Ohio, and it was just like that sucked all of that energy out of me. So yeah.
So Ohio is the reason you forgot
Ohio
your
is the
Spanish.
reason why I forgot
And
my
Texas
Spanish.
is the reason it's coming back.
Here's hoping.
Yep.
I don't know, I'm kind of old now, so it's not what it used to be.
Old dogs, new tricks, all that.
Something
But
like
this
that.
is
Old
an old
dogs, old
trick.
tricks.
You're just remembering an old trick.
Yeah, but that could be even more difficult, I feel like.
I've never heard anyone say anything about old dogs and old tricks.
Well,
We're about to
today
find
is
out.
that day.
So for folks who have not seen Encanto, give us like a little bit of context about this song, because I think it helps, given that the song is all in Spanish. If, like me, you don't really habla
100%.
español. So
100% Spanish. So the song is called Dos Oraguitas.
which is two caterpillars.
By the way, Amanda, please close your ears for the entirety of the song, because maybe 55% I will pronounce correctly. Anyway, it's called Two Caterpillars. It is about Abuela from Encanto and the love that she shared with Abuelo, our dearly departed Abuelo. And so it's a song that's kind of bittersweet in a way. Like it talks about their love together, and just this very tender and sweet song, but also then that loss.
Because in the film, while the song is being performed, we're seeing a montage of their life together. And again, during their marriage, they ended up having to flee as refugees from, it's unclear exactly who, but it looks like some kind of military organization of some kind. And yeah, Abuelo ends up sacrificing his life so that Abuela and her children can get away.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of what's going on here. And then if you have not seen Encanto, the family is magical. And so that seems, as far as we can tell, that seems to be the source of the magic, right, is this sacrifice. And so we're witnessing how all of that happened as this song is being performed over it. It's really, it's a beautiful thing, and it's, I think it's pretty great that the biggest movie of the year last year, the main song in the movie, not the one that became the most popular, obviously, but the main song was actually all in Spanish. Like, that was really cool.
Oh yeah, that was the composer of the song and the singer of the song both spoke to the fact that it was just very odd to have, like, that they were even allowed to have such a major song done completely in Spanish, and it wasn't like, oh, it's going to be usually like dubbed differently in different countries or something like that. It's all around the world, in China and Russia and all these other places where they don't even typically
Ohio
have that
even?
Ohio even.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty great for that.
Yeah, good. All right, well, I guess enough build up. Why don't you hit us with it?
Oh joy. Dos oruguitas enamoradas pasan sus noches madrugadas llenas de hambre, siguen andando y navegando un mundo que cambia, sigue cambiando, navegando en un mundo que cambia, sigue cambiando. Dos oruguitas para el viento mientras se abrazan con sentimiento. Siguen creciendo, no saben cuándo buscar algún rincón. El tiempo sigue cambiando, inseparables son. El tiempo sigue cambiando. Hay oruguitas, no se aguanten más. Hay que crecer para volver hacia adelante. Si quieras, bien en el riclo, vienen que salidas. Hay que partir y construir su propio futuro. Hay oruguitas, no se aguanten más. Hay que crecer para volver hacia adelante. Si quieras, bienvenidos, vienen que salidas. Hay que partir, hay que construir su propio futuro. Dos oruguitas desorientadas en dos capullos, bien abrigadas, con sueños nuevos. Ya solo falta hacer lo necesario en el mundo que sigue cambiando, tumbando sus paredes. Ahí viene nuestro milagro, nuestro milagro. Hay mariposas, no se aguantan más. Hay que crecer para volver hacia adelante. Seguidas ya son milagros, rompiendo crisalidas. Hay que valer, hay que alcanzar su propio futuro. Mariposas, no se aguantan más. Hay que crecer para volver hacia adelante. Seguidas ya son milagros, rompiendo crisalidas. Hay que valer, hay que crecer su propio futuro. No se aguanten más. Hay que crecer para volver hacia adelante. Seguidas ya son milagros, rompiendo crisalidas. Hay que valer, hay que encontrar su propio futuro.
That's great, man. Thank you very much. So, welcome to Catalyst Summer. We're doing Encanto today. This is what we're doing throughout the summer. We're talking about how the film Encanto can help orient us towards spiritual growth. And so we're beginning, I think appropriately, with the matriarch of the La Familia Madrigal, Abuela. Early in the film, in the song we did last week, right, when Mirabelle is introducing us to her entire family, she tells us exactly who Abuela is. She says this, let's be clear, Abuela runs the show. She led us here so many years ago. And that's, again, that's what we see in that montage that we were just talking about, right? How through the sacrifice of her husband that created this magic for the family, Abuela is able to lead the family to this space where they're able to build La Casita, right, their house that protects them, and not only them, but actually through their magic enables this entire community to thrive and flourish around them. And so Abuela really sees herself as the guardian of that sacrifice, right? The guardian of the gift of safety and security. She is the one who is protecting the family. She is the one who is protecting the magic that enables the family to flourish. And again, not just the family, but the entire community that surrounds them. Abuela sees this all on her shoulders. And again, we see in the beginning of the movie even how much she cares about her family and how much she cares about the community and how that's all wrapped up in her concern for the magic. Unfortunately, though, as the film progresses, we realize that Abuela's passion for protecting her people has become corrupted in some very subtle ways. She has been steamrolling the family, and people are doing things that they have no interest in doing, even including, marriages to certain people in the village, not because they're in love, not because this is what they want, but because Abuela thinks it's for the best. And so we recognize that the family has actually become unhealthy in a number of ways because no one has the courage to stand up to Abuela. And it's actually causing the magic to sputter and flicker and fade. And of course, Abuela doesn't realize this. She doesn't know why it's happening. And it's not until her big confrontation with Mirabel, her granddaughter, who's the center of the film, that the truth comes out. In their big confrontation, Abuela blames Mirabel for the magic failing, for not caring about the family, for not doing everything that she can to protect the family the way Abuela does. And here's what Mirabel says in return. She says, "I'll never be good enough for you. No matter how hard I try, no matter how hard any of us tries, we all love this family. You're the one breaking our home. The miracle is dying because of you." Now, that's incredibly harsh, right? But it was also true. This is something that we were able to see as the movie progressed, and we're able to see that it was actually Abuela's love for her family and for the community and for the miracle, the milagro, that caused her to behave the way she is. And it's not until Mirabel stands up to her and tells her the plain, unvarnished truth that Abuela is able to see how she has strayed from her course. And so it is in fact that very confrontation that enables Abuela to see herself truly, to apologize, and then for the family to be restored and to become much healthier than they were at the beginning of the movie. So I want to ask, as we're beginning this morning, if you know someone like Abuela. Someone who has a deep sense of justice, who really cares about right and wrong, but who maybe is a little bit of a steamroller, right? Someone that you just don't want to get in the way of when they have something in their head, because they know what's right and no one's going to tell them otherwise. Someone that takes over a room when they walk in, and someone that no one can tell them how it's going to be because they already know. But if you can get to a safe space with that person, they have an incredibly tender heart under that prickly exterior. They're incredibly, actually, one of the ways you can tell these people is by handing them a baby, actually. These kinds of people, these Abuela types, these challenger types, when they encounter a baby, they completely fall apart and melt. And you see this entire other side of them come out that you're like, wait, is this even the same person? Because these kinds of people, their whole existence is around defending the defenseless and protecting the vulnerable, and nothing embodies that more than a baby, right? And so you see this whole different side of them come out. Now, if you know someone like that, we're going to talk about them today. They're Enneagram 8s. They're what are called the challengers. And we're going to talk about what it takes for an 8 to be healthy and flourishing, because when 8s are healthy, they are the best people to have on your side when you're fighting for justice, when you're working for good. Of course, it is possible to be steamrolled by them, for 8s to do a lot of damage. So if you are an 8, right, we're going to talk about that too. We're going to talk about why you have a tendency to do that and what the path towards health is. And so I want to begin this morning by moving back into worship with Nathan, because what we see reflected in Enneagram 8s is the justice of God, this deep concern that no one is left out, that no one slips through the cracks, that everyone has a place and is valuable and has what they need to flourish. That's what 8s help us to see, and that's how 8s help us to know God better. So we're going to begin by singing and by celebrating that God, and I'm going to invite you to join us. If you're online with us, if you're in person with us, either way, feel free to stand up with us and get ready. I'm going to hand it over to Nathan and Cynthia.
Good morning, good morning. Hey there. Like JR said, I'm Nathan, this is Cynthia, and we are here to lead you all in singing a song together. Spoiler alert, it's a little active, so it may be easier for you to stand up if you're able where you are. If not, that's cool too. But just know we're going to be pretty energetic. Energetic. Looking at you, John. John's the energetic one.
Shout louder. Everybody say freedom, 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 freedom. Say no more shackles, no more chains, no more bondage. I am free. Yeah. If you believe that, sing it. Say no more shackles, no more shackles, no more chains, no more bondage. I am free. Yeah. One more time, say no more shackles, no more shackles, no more chains, no more bondage. I am free. Now we dance to freedom and say hallelujah. 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 Hallelujah.
Y'all can have a seat. I'm sure you heard the news Friday about the Supreme Court overturning Roe versus Wade, which was the guarantor of reproductive rights in the United States for the last 50 years. And I know that has created a whole mixture of responses. And what I've seen, I think predominantly, is a lot of anger, a lot of fear, a lot of despair, and a lot of grieving. And so I didn't think it would be appropriate for us to continue worshiping this morning, particularly when we are talking about the kind of person who embodies God's love for the most vulnerable, without creating some space to acknowledge those reactions and to pray together. I have a lot that I thought about saying about this, but a lot of that has more to do with me and how I'm feeling. And such a decision is not really something that impacts me most directly. So I wanted to instead just create some space for all of you who are gathered here, for all of you who are joining us online, for those who are watching this later because you just couldn't bring yourself to even enter a house of worship today, to have some space to grieve together and to process these things and to be angry together and to lament together. And so I'm going to pray for us. And I'm just going to use whatever words I have, which are inadequate, and I'm going to trust that what Paul says is true in Romans, that when we don't even know for sure what to pray and how to pray, the Holy Spirit is already praying for us. And so I just want to offer some space this morning in the midst of confusion and anger and anxiety and uncertainty to consider what's next for us as the church, and how this impacts our call to stand with the most vulnerable in our community and continue to be advocates and allies for those folks as well. So would you join me in prayer? God, if there's anything that the Supreme Court's decision on Friday shows us, it's that things are never over. We know that the decision to overturn Roe versus Wade has created in our country even more fear and anxiety because of the real consequences that many women will face now in the face of sometimes dangerous and life-threatening circumstances. So we pray, even as those women are hearing so many in the church celebrate this decision, even as so many women are wondering where they can turn that is a safe place to turn, that we would be a church, that we would be a community that they know that they can find people who are allies, people who love them and support them, people who will rage with them and grieve with them and worry with them. We want to continue to be a church that cares first and foremost about the most vulnerable in our society. We know that this decision will empower laws that leave those people even more vulnerable and even more open to exploitation. And so we know that this decision is a call for us to rise up and to be even more intentional about seeking those people out and making sure that they know that we love them the way you love them, and that we care for them the way you care for them. Give us grace as we continue to engage the world around us. Give us words to say. May your Spirit speak through us. And give us eyes and ears to hear and to see those who truly are the most vulnerable, who truly need our presence and our support. Be with us as we continue to worship today, as we continue to consider what it means to truly care for the most vulnerable the way you do. We offer these prayers now as we continue worshiping in the name of your Son, Jesus. This is a time in our gathering when we pass peace together. And so, again, I feel like I've been saying this every week this year, but this is a time when our world needs more peace to be created in it. And so that's why we practice peacemaking here, because we know that God calls us to make peace in the world, to put more peace where there was not peace. And so whether we're in person or whether we're gathered online, we practice that. We take a couple of minutes to offer words of peace and signs of peace. If you're online, obviously that can be a GIF or a selfie or something like that. If you're here in person with us, it depends on your comfort level. It can be anything from a hug to a socially distanced head nod, anything in between, and then some words of peace. But again, the purpose of this is to practice making peace so that when we go back out into a world that is filled with chaos and conflict, the Spirit is giving us eyes to see how we too can make peace in the world. So would you stand with me if you're online with me? Would you join us in a couple of minutes of peacemaking together? Peace be with all of you.
Your heart and soul, I don't hesitate, 'cause the world seems cold. Stay young at heart. I could you never, never, oh, heart. That's the way.
That's a great little lick right there. It just really is. Gives me nodding every time. So, welcome back. Welcome back to our Summer of the Enneagram. Let me explain a little bit of what we're doing this summer. For those of you who maybe never heard of Enneagram, maybe you have not seen Encanto, that's okay. So the Enneagram is a tool for spiritual direction and spiritual growth. And on its surface, it looks like a personality profile, like Myers-Briggs or StrengthsFinder or something like that. Because in the Enneagram, there are 9 numbers, and everyone is one of the 9 numbers. And the numbers represent personas that we have. What makes the Enneagram different from personality profiles is this, and it's actually one of the big books we're using to shape this series. It's called The Road Back to You. It's by a guy named Ian Cron, and he's the one that said this to me. I was at a thing where he was speaking, and he said, personality profiles tell you who you really are, right? You take the Myers-Briggs and you learn, oh, this is who I am, this is how I interact better, whatever. Take the StrengthsFinder, it's like, oh, these are my top 5 strengths, so this helps me be a better employee or be a better friend or whatever. They tell you who you really are. The Enneagram, on the other hand, tells you who you're really not, okay? When you find what number you are, whether you're an 8 like we're talking about today, or a 3 like I am, or whatever Nathan is, whatever number that is, it's a mystery we'll hopefully find solved by the end of the summer, we'll see. Whatever number you are, that is a persona that we create, usually when we're really young. And it's a way to protect our authentic selves, our true selves, from a world that is dangerous in some way. And the dangers really kind of fall into 3 categories that the Enneagram calls triads. Some people are kind of ruled or motivated by anger, which is where we're starting. We're starting with the anger triads. We're looking at the 8s, the 9s, and the 1s. Some people are motivated by shame, the 2s, 3s, and 4s. That's where I fall. And some people believe lives that are based on fears. That's the 5s, 6s, and 7s. And so based on whatever core lie you believe, we create these personas, what theologians and mystics call our shadow selves, right? They're these selves that are not our true self. They're a false self that we create to protect our authentic selves from some kind of hostility in the world. Again, anger, shame, or fear of some kind. The work of spiritual growth then, and we talked about this last week, right, is to move past our shadow selves, to shine the light of God's loving truth on those shadow selves, see the ways in which we are hiding from God and hiding from ourselves and hiding from the world, and then live into the truth. And it's important that we know that in the light of God's loving gaze, what we find is not condemnation or rejection or judgment, but love. So all of this whole series, at its core, is about us getting to know who God created us to be better, getting to know one another better, because we're doing 9 numbers, but each of us is only one number, and you don't change. Like some people are like, oh, I started out as a 2, but now I'm a 7. That's not how it works, right? We're all one number. We're always one number, right? So, like if you're an 8 and we're talking about you today, does that mean you just check out for the rest of the summer? You're like, bye, I did my work, I'm gone. Hopefully not, right? Hopefully what you recognize is, though I'm one of the numbers, I know and am in relationship with people who are all of the other numbers. And so getting to know not only how God made me and what my shadow work looks like, but also getting to know other people, how God made them and what their shadow work looks like, it helps us to be a better community together. It helps us to grow together, to be stronger together, to love well. It makes our relationship stronger, helps us to be a better church. And then, of course, all of it will help us know God better, help us know how we were created in God's image and how God loves us, how God sees us, and then how God is inviting us to grow. I'm really excited. And of course, we're doing this in a fun way through the movie Encanto, because I am even more convinced every time I come back and work on another sermon that whoever wrote this movie, and I could have looked it up, but I didn't, I'm sorry, right? It's a mystery, no one knows. No, we know who wrote the movie, right? But I'm convinced that whoever they are, those magnificent strangers, that they wrote this according to the Enneagram, because all of the main characters of Encanto mirror different numbers on the Enneagram. And so each week we're going to take one of the numbers, like today we're talking about 8s, and we're going to go to the character in Encanto that matches up with them. And in this case, that's Abuela. Abuela is the 8. She is the challenger character in the Enneagram. Okay, so that's, so today's Abuela's day. So I want to begin by reading some of the descriptions out of The Road Back to You. That's the one of the books we're using, that describe what 8s are like, both when you are in an average place. So this is it, right? So here we go. So let's look at average 8s. See if this describes you, or it might describe someone you know, okay? Average 8s tend to be steamrollers more than diplomats. They are dualistic thinkers, right? So people are good or bad, things are right or wrong, right? Very dualistic. They prefer to lead, they struggle to follow, and they use aggression to emotionally protect themselves. They have little patience with people who are indecisive or who don't pull their weight. That's average 8s, okay? Now, at their unhealthiest, here's what 8s are like. Unhealthy 8s are preoccupied with the idea that they are going to be betrayed. So they're suspicious and slow to trust others. They resort to revenge when they're wronged, and they believe that they can change reality, and they make their own rules, and they expect others to follow them. Ooh, okay? 8s can be scary when they're unhealthy. But here's the good news, right? Here's what a healthy 8 looks like. Healthy 8s are great friends, exceptional leaders, and champions of those who cannot fight on their own behalf. They have the intelligence, courage, and stamina to do what others say can't be done. They have learned to use power in the right measure and at the right times, and they understand vulnerability and even embrace it at times. Okay? That's a healthy 8. That's 8s. If you're here, if right now you feel pretty uncomfortable, like I snuck into your room and copied your diary, okay? That's because we need you. We need you to be healthy. Listen to that person. That person sounds amazing because you are amazing. When you do your work, when you be fully who God created you to be, you are a powerful force to be reckoned with. And of course, like all of us, when you're unhealthy, you're a Tasmanian devil. Okay, of course, right? That's how all of us, I promise you, every number we go through, when you get to the unhealthy part, you're like, ugh. Yes, right? It's not good to be unhealthy. We all know that. That's not rocket science, right? I'm not breaking news here, right? We're all trying to work towards health. And all of us, when we are healthy, when we are the way God created us to be, we are a powerful force. Eights, you are just lightning in a bottle when it comes to getting work done, to accomplishing the impossible, to defending the defenseless, all of that. You are amazing, okay? So where did this all come from for an eight? Eights learned somewhere early on that the world is a dangerous place. Okay, so one of my best friends is an eight. He came from a very unstable home environment, okay? Grew up in poverty. Parents were not people who could be relied on to provide for. And so he learned early on that he had to take care of himself, okay? Maybe this could also be someone who was bullied a lot when they were younger, something like that. But whatever it is, eights learned early on that the world was dangerous for them. Think about Abuela, right? When she was young and married, she and her family became refugees. They're fleeing from some kind of military occupation. So she learned early on, you can't trust the world. Okay? The message that eights who learned as kids is that out there it's survival of the fittest, and vulnerability makes you a target. So eights created this armor that they wear that no one can get through. They are tough and they are scary. They are powerful. And no one is going to be able to get through that armor. That's what eights learned early on, okay? Now again, when eights are healthy, this anger that they have, this anger at the world, this anger that they direct out at a world that is a dangerous, unsafe place that exploits the vulnerable, this anger that eights have in them, when they're healthy, it can fuel them like a fire that keeps everyone warm, right? For Abuela, it was the miracle, the magic that made the casita, the magical house for them all, right? It's a beautiful thing. However, when eights are unhealthy, that fire can get out of control and burn everything down. So what does spiritual health look like for eights? Well, if you have a Bible, go ahead and turn with us to John chapter 4. And if you grab one of the Bibles out of the back, that is on page 639. Feel free to keep that. Consider that a gift. As you're turning to John 4 or clicking over to it on your smart devices or whatever, I was going through the Bible looking at all these different people that I thought might be eights, and I couldn't get away from the woman at the well. I know if you've been around Catalyst, I preach on her like 7 times a year. I can't help it. Gospel of John is my favorite gospel, and this story is one of the major reasons why. So we're going there again, okay? Because I think she is just a great example of an Enneagram 8. The background you need for this story is that Jesus has an encounter with this woman. And we're not going to go through all the politics and the racial stuff and stuff like that, but here's what you need to know. The reason John chose to highlight this story is because Jesus and this woman are like on the vast opposite ends of the social radar from each other. He is a well-respected male Jewish rabbi. Okay, so he is kind of at the top of his social hierarchy. Okay, she is a sinful, exploited Samaritan woman. Okay, so she is the most vulnerable of the people. Okay, and again, we don't have time to get into socially wild, but think about it this way: we know the people statistically who are the most vulnerable in our culture today are Black trans women. Right? Black trans women are the most socially vulnerable, have the least protection under the law, most likely to experience violence and things like that. Okay, so take like your average like Texas megachurch pastor, right? Well respected, probably wife and dog and 2.5 kids and the picket fence and that whole thing, right? Very, very socially insulated and protected. Talking to a Black trans woman. Okay, that's kind of what John was wanting us to see in this story here when Jesus approaches this woman. She has experienced the world as a very dangerous place, a place that is constantly trying to exploit her, to take advantage of her, to use her for its own devices. Okay, and then she encounters Jesus, who, again, as far as she can tell, is just one more guy who wants to use and abuse her. And so she responds to him. You'll see this, and I'm going to try to read this this way. She responds to him with a lot of sarcasm and biting humor. I think some people read her as this like wide-eyed waif who's like asking Jesus these questions out of like, oh my goodness, good sir, could you tell me more about, and that's just not like, I don't know if you've ever met someone who's been through some stuff, but that's just not typically how they are, right? They're very savvy, and they tend to be really sharp-tongued. And so you can see that actually in her responses. And when I read, I'm going to try to give it a little bit of that as I read it. So we're going to begin in verse 4 and read through verse 15. So Jesus had to go through Samaria on his way to where he was going. And so eventually he came to the Samaritan village of Sychar near the field that Jacob gave to his son Joseph. And Jacob's well was there, and Jesus was tired from a long walk. So he sat wearily beside the well around noontime, and soon a Samaritan woman came to draw water. And Jesus said to her, please give me a drink. Now again, we don't have time to go through all of this, but you know what a meet cute is in a rom-com? It's like where the two people first meet for the first time and there's like some kind of weird hijinks. In the Bible, guy meets girl at well was the classic meet cute. There's like 10 stories in the Old Testament where guy meets girl at well, they fall in love and get married, okay? And so when Jesus saddles up to this well and he's like, hey there, can I get a drink? Like, this is why she thinks she knows what's going on, right? Here's another guy trying another cheesy pickup line at the watering hole, right? Okay? And that's why she responds the way she does. He was alone because his disciples had gone into the village to buy some food, and so the woman was surprised because Jews usually refuse to have anything to do with Samaritans. So she says to Jesus, yeah, you're a Jew and I'm a Samaritan woman, so why are you asking me for a drink? And Jesus replies, if you only knew the gift that God has for you and who you're speaking to, you would ask me, and I would give you living water, right? So again, hear it through her ears. Jesus is like, hey there, can I have a drink? And she's like, what? Who even are you, dude? And he's like, well, if you knew who I am, you'd be asking me for a drink instead, right? And so she's like, okay, but you don't even have a bucket, dude, right? And this well is very deep. So where would you even get this living water? And besides, do you think you're greater than our ancestor Jacob, who gave us this well in the first place? I mean, how can you offer better water than he and his sons and his animals enjoyed? So she's letting him know that she knows the story, right? She's picking up what he's laying down, or at least what she thinks he's laying down. And Jesus replies, anyone who drinks this water again will soon become thirsty again. But those who drink the water I give will never be thirsty again. It will become a fresh, bubbling spring within them, giving them eternal life. This sounds like his bragging has gotten out of control, right? Now, not only is he going to give her water instead of her give him water, but now apparently his water is so good that she'll never thirst again, right? She's been here before. She's met this guy before, so she thinks. And so she kind of, you can hear the eye roll, right? Please, sir. Give me this water. Then I'll never have to be thirsty again, and I won't have to come here to go. It sounds like a great deal, right? So again, she responds with what we would expect Nate to respond to, right? Prickly, a lot of bluster, a lot of sarcasm. And what she can't see because of the armor that she has up is that Jesus is not trying pickup lines on her. Right? Jesus is not actually another in a long line of men who want to use and abuse her. Jesus is actually speaking truth to her in this gentle way that never gets combative with her, but also doesn't quit, right? He keeps insisting. And so she ends up sort of accidentally, I think, opening up a little bit. She says, go ahead and give me this water. Sure, whatever, man. Right? Go ahead, shoot your shot. And it's enough for Jesus to reach right into her life and identify the wound that she is hiding. Look what he does next. He says, so she says, okay, yeah, give me this water, man. Sounds good. And he says, go and get your husband. She says, I don't have a husband. And Jesus goes, you're right. You don't have a husband. You have had 5 husbands, and you aren't even married to the man you're living with now. Again, we don't know the details of that, but in the ancient world, women were not in charge of who was married, right? This was a patriarchal culture, and so whatever is happening here, it was not pleasant for this woman to live through, right? And again, now she's living with a guy who won't even do her the honor of marrying her. She is doing what she has to do to get by, to survive. She is very far from thriving. And Jesus, in this moment of accidental vulnerability that she shows, points right to the heart of that wound. And of course, what we see with Jesus is not judgment, is not condemnation, but care. He sees her. He knows her. And in the we're gonna pause here and sing another song together. But what we're gonna see in the aftermath of this is that the woman experiences this. She realizes in this moment Jesus is not here to try to use her. Jesus is not here to abuse her. Jesus is here to love her, to connect with her. He is identifying himself as a person who is truly safe, someone with who she can literally let down the walls, take off her armor, and allow herself to be seen for who she is. This is a powerful moment for her. And I think it's a powerful moment for any of us who are able to step away from our shadows and step into the loving light of God's gaze. And so I want to invite us to just pause there and to kind of meditate on this moment where Jesus sees this woman and responds to her with love. And I want us to take that back into worship. I want us to take that back into singing. Let's celebrate now this God who sees us for who we truly are and who knows us and who loves us. A God who meets us not with condemnation, but with welcome. Would you stand with me?
Before I spoke a word, you were singing over me. You have been so, so good to me. Oh, I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, by still I found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, till you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. When I was opposed, still your love fought for me. You've been so, so good to me. When I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. You've been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, by still unfound, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you gave yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. No shadow you won't light up, a mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. No wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. No wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. No wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, till you give yourself away. The overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of No shadow you won't light up, how you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no wall you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I don't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God.
Y'all can have a seat. So I want to ask now, what is the path to transformation for an 8? Right? What is the path that we can take to find wholeness and to be spiritually healthy? Well, again, this woman, she sort of accidentally opened up a space for Jesus to speak this truth into her, to identify this wounding that she has, to kind of pierce through her armor to her vulnerable, authentic self. And I think most of us, if Jesus did something this direct with us, would be like, "Ugh," and just run away, right? Drop the water jar and run, and take off running. But the woman doesn't. I want to read her response because, again, a lot of people, I've seen people say that she's like changing the subject here or trying to avoid an uncomfortable conversation, but I don't think that's what's happening here. So I want to finish this little bit of the story and then make a couple of observations. So Jesus has just said, that's right, you don't have a husband, you have 5, and now you're living with a guy and he's not even your husband. And her response is, sir, you must be a prophet. Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. So, tell me, why is it that you Jews insist on that Jerusalem is the only place of worship? And Jesus says, the time is coming when it will no longer matter whether you worship the Father on this mountain where they are, right, where the Samaritan temple is, or in Jerusalem where the Jewish temple is. You Samaritans know very little about the one you worship, while we Jews know all about him, for salvation comes through the Jews. But the time is coming, and indeed is now here, when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth. The Father is looking for those who will worship him that way. For God is spirit, and so those who worship him must worship in spirit and truth. And the woman says, I know that this guy called Messiah is coming, the one who's called the Christ. And when he comes, he's going to explain everything to us. And then Jesus told her, I am the Messiah. Okay? There's a couple of interesting things here. One, again, I just love that, as soon as Jesus says, that's right, go get your husband, and then he says, you have 5, you've had 5, now she says, oh, you're a prophet. Then she immediately brings up politics and religion, which you're not supposed to ever do, right? Certainly not with strangers. And it's a weird transition from who's going to get who water to now who's right about God, except if you're an 8, right? This is actually classic 8 language. 8s are incredibly no-nonsense. They don't pull any punches. They're straight to the point. And so as soon as this woman realizes that the guy that she is talking to is not who she thought he was, she says, okay, well, let's just cut right to the chase. Who's right? Is it you or is it me? Come on. You wanted to go deep? We're deep now. You ready? And Jesus, of course, is ready. This is what he's been waiting for, right? And so what I love about this is that it closes with Jesus telling her he's the Messiah. And this may not seem like a big deal to us because we've known for 2,000 years that he's the Messiah. But in the Gospels, actually, Jesus keeps his messianic identity really close to the chest, right? And in the Gospel of John, this is the first person that Jesus has told that he is the Messiah. So he responds to the woman's vulnerability with vulnerability of his own. And 8s, this is very important for you because the last thing you want to do is be vulnerable, okay? You are convinced, you have been convinced for a long time, that the world will hurt you if you are vulnerable. And here's the thing, you're right. You're right. If we choose to be vulnerable, we're going to get hurt. Okay, vulnerability is risk, and we live in a world where no risk is 100% certain, right? So let's just get it out of the way. If you choose to be vulnerable, it is risky. You will be hurt. But being hurt is not the end of the world. We can choose to be vulnerable, we can choose to embrace the reality of hurt, and we can know that that is not going to be the end of us. That in fact what happens is Jesus meets us in our vulnerability. Because Jesus went first. Jesus made himself vulnerable when he became a baby, when he lived a human life. And what did that get him? It got him crucified, right? But God refused to let a world characterized by survival of the fittest have the last word. That's why the resurrection is so important. When the world assaulted God's own vulnerability, God raised Jesus from the dead. And so 8s, listen, I know that it's scary. I know it's scary to risk hurt. But if we do that, if you can risk being vulnerable, if you can choose to be courageous enough to be vulnerable, God is with you in that. And even when you are hurt, God will continue to work to protect and to preserve you and to bring beauty out of that hurt. Okay? I know that's scary, but that's how God works. And if you're going to be healthy, you have got to learn vulnerability. Because as long as you have your armor up, you're going to miss what God has for you. And you're going to do real damage to the people around you. Again, just like Abuela, right? Just like her. What it took was her hearing the unvarnished truth from her granddaughter. You're the one destroying this family. And it was only then that she could be vulnerable. She could admit what she had done. She could apologize to her family, which is if you've ever had to apologize for something, which I'm assuming we all have, right? It makes us extremely vulnerable. But that was the path for the Madrigal family to healing. And that's the path for you as an 8 to healing as well. So before we go any further, before we talk about the spiritual growth that is possible for 8s, and then what those of us who love 8s can do as people who love them and care about them and want to support them, I want to bring us to the communion table because we just should not rush past this call to vulnerability. We talk a lot in the church about Jesus dying for us. We talk a lot less about us being invited to die with him. But that's exactly what Paul says we do. So when we come to the communion table, it's a way of picking up our own crosses and following after Jesus as his disciples. It's a choice to engage the world the way Jesus did, to engage with courage and vulnerability the way that Jesus did. And so before we come to the table today, I'm going to ask you some questions, some prayer examine questions, give you some space to reflect prayerfully on them. And they're going to be questions that are kind of oriented towards 8s, But even if you're not an 8, I hope you can find some good in meditating on these questions in your own spirit. Then after we've done that, we're going to pray together and then receive communion together. So here's the first question I want you to consider. And again, make this a prayer. Ask God this question, right? What makes me angry? Now, how can I discern whether my anger is righteous or not? Now, where do I avoid vulnerability? Are there particular spaces, particular relationships? Where do I avoid vulnerability? And finally, with whom is God calling me to be vulnerable? Is there a particular relationship, particular space, but where is God calling me to be vulnerable this week? All right, let's pray together. God, you have shown us this morning in the story of the woman that you encountered at the well, that you are the God who engages with us and who is not afraid of our prickly natures, but you continue to engage us with gentleness and with love, continuing to invite us to experience your authentic and deep love for us, a love that is not exploitative or abusive, but is empowering and is uplifting and is transformative. We confess that we live in a world where that feels dangerous. It feels dangerous to trust like that, to put ourselves out there like that, to make ourselves vulnerable like that. And yet you have shown us that if we want to be a true power and a true force for the most vulnerable in this world, that is what is required of us, because that is how you engaged our world. And so we come to your communion table today where you made yourself vulnerable to us. You gave us these elements, and we pray that as we receive them, that they would become a spiritual food for us, that in receiving these elements, we might too know you at your most vulnerable and be able to imitate you in that as well. Send us forth from this place as a people who is not afraid to face a dangerous world and the possibilities of hurt, because we know that you are with us, that you are ahead of us, and you come behind us. We have these prayers now, and we approach your table this morning in the name of your son, Jesus. The night that Jesus was betrayed, he shared this meal with his disciples, and during that meal, he gave them a loaf of bread, breaking it, and saying, "This is my body broken for you. Take it and eat it." When the meal was finished, he gave them a cup of wine, and he said, "This is my blood poured out for the forgiveness of sins. Take it and drink it." And so now we too eat and drink, and as we do, we remember Jesus' death until he returns.
every moment. You calm my raging seas. You walk with me through fire. Heal all my disease. I trust in you. I trust in you. I believe you're my healer. I believe you are all I need. I believe you're my portion. I believe you're more than enough for me. Jesus, you're all I need. You hold my every moment. All my raging seas. Walk with me through fire. Heal all my disease. I trust in you. I trust in you. I believe you're my healer. I believe you are all I need. I believe you're my portion. I believe more than enough for me. Jesus, you're all I need. Nothing is impossible for you. Nothing is impossible. Nothing is impossible for you. You hold my world in your hand. Nothing is impossible for you. Nothing is impossible. Nothing is impossible for you. You hold my world. Say nothing is
Friends, as you're going today, I wanted to say thank you to all of you who are continuing to support the church through giving. I wanted to make sure you knew you'd seen the June financial update. We put it in the email newsletter and in our financials, in our Facebook group. Obviously, if you're a guest with us, that's not something that applies to you. We don't expect you to pay for a seat or something like that. We're just very glad you're here, and your presence is the only gift that we ask from you today. So thank you for being here. Also, to those of you who are continuing to serve, thank you for enabling us to create this space week after week after week to put up with Nathan's and my shenanigans. Mostly my shenanigans, obviously. Nathan's are fun-loving and cute. Mine are weird and off the wall. Anyway, that's how it is, right? Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's what we're going with. Anyway, again, just thank you to all of you for continuing to help us to do this week after week after week. If you stand, I want to dismiss you with a blessing. Give you a little bit of homework. So one of the key ways that you grow spiritually is through choosing vulnerability. And so I know that's hard for you. I know that feels scary, but I know you can do it because you're an 8. You're tough. That's your whole thing. So here's my challenge to you. You're going to have to retrain your brain and retrain your spirit to think of vulnerability as a part of your toughness, okay, right? Because right now it feels like a threat. And so if that's difficult for you, I want you to find someone in your life. That could be a mentor, it could be a romantic partner, it could be a friend, or someone in your small group or C group or something like that. Just find someone that you can practice being vulnerable with, okay? Because the more you do that, the easier it becomes for you. So that's going to be a good way for you to grow spiritually. Now, for the rest of us who are not 8s, again, I'm not an 8, I'm a 3, right? Here's the thing. We tend to probably shy away from the 8s in our lives because they're so tough, but 8s really appreciate and need plain talk and tough talk. Again, like Jesus did with the woman, like Mirabelle did with Abuela. And so here's my challenge to you. If you know someone who's an 8, don't be afraid to just speak plainly to them. Cut right to the chase. They're no nonsense, straight to the point kind of people. You can be that person with them. And if you practice being that with them, it really helps them to trust you and to begin to be their full self with you. So that's my challenge to the rest of us, right? Kind of practice that, being fully present and speaking directly with 8s. If we do that, folks, I think we'll find that the 8s among us flourish. They become real leaders among us and help us see the people in our community who are the most vulnerable, the people who need our support the most. And they are the ones who can accomplish miracles among us. They're the ones who have the energy to do what otherwise maybe could not be done. So we really do need them, and we need them to lead us. We need them to celebrate with us, and we need to know that what they show us is God's heart for the most vulnerable among us. So thank you, 8s, for being a part of our congregation. Thank you for your gift to our church and to the world around us. And I want to send all of us now with a blessing in the spirit of that 8 champion, being a champion for justice. Catalyst, we're going into a world that is filled with people who are vulnerable, people who don't have some of the same protections that many of us enjoy. And those are the people that God calls us to attend to care for. As you go, may you find your eyes open to where those people are in your life. May your ears be open to their cries. And may you find yourself drawn to them and loving them the way God notices them and loves them. Go in the grace and peace of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And we'll see you next week.
Bring the beat in. you again and again and again and again.